Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
I think Brent's ready for rapid fire, so I'm ready for rapid fire.
All right. He's just hanging out, waiting for Cowboys Niners talk. Fill in the blank. The word that describes your anticipation for Saturday's Notre Dame Navy game is blank.
I would say that the word that kind of describes my anticipation for the Notre Dame and Navy game is discipline. And I say discipline for multiple reasons because one, you have to be disciplined to play the triple option, and two, I think you have to be disciplined in terms of where Marcus Freeman and the team is in terms of what their goals are for the end of the season. Right, we saw what happened against NIU, but you have to stay disciplined and keep your focus on a really good Navy team that's going to run the triple option. So I think it has to be discipline considering who you are playing and where you are in the season, and ultimately, what the end goal is, and that's making the playoffs.
It's interesting that yours is discipline because that discipline describes your anticipation. Mine is uneasy because the Navy game is always such an uneasy watch for me. It's like you're sitting there and Navy is just making these plays in 3 and 4 and 5 yards, and they start moving downfield, and it's like they're once that offense again. I know the offense is different this year, but it's like you just always feel like, well, Notre Dame should be able to stop them, and sometimes they do, and other times, it's a little bit tougher. So I just always have an uneasy feeling going into this game because it's always a game that Notre Dame absolutely should win because of the difference in the talent on the field. But as we found out, they don't always win. So it's like I just had I'm not uneasy about the specific matchup. It's just because it's Notre Dame and Navy, and crazy things have happened in the last 17 years since they picked up that first win. So Jeremiyah Love's only 100-yard rushing game this season was against Purdue. Jadarian Price is yet to have a 100-yard game, while Riley Leonard, of course, had back-to-back 100-yard games on the ground against both Purdue and Miami, Ohio. So, scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence that either Price or Love will hit the century mark before Riley Leonard does it again this season?
I'd give my confidence a solid 8 out of 10, but the thing that still confuses me is I just want to understand what the thought process is in terms of snap counts between Love, Price, and Williams. It's so inconsistent game to game, and I would just I'd like to understand, like, if it's so inconsistent like that, there has to be a reasoning behind that. You're not just going in there and randomly deciding, who's going to get carries when and where. So, that's the part that makes this question so difficult. Between Price, Love, there's just an inconsistency of carries, but Riley Leonard's going to get his carries because he's the quarterback. He's going to be in every play. But, I think that there is going to be more of a focus on Riley Leonard kind of going down the stretch here because of what he can do and how he can change the game with his legs. But I think the steady Eddie pick here is Jeremiyah Love because he's the guy that I think has the most talent. He has the most explosiveness. So I think he's going to be the guy to get the 100-yard game next.
Yeah. So you're calling it out. So you think that it actually is going to happen, that he will get it before Riley Leonard gets another one?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. My confidence is only a 2 that it's going to happen because of what you were talking about. It's like Love had 38 snaps last week. The week before, it was like 26, and Jadarian Price had a lot more after he only played 5 snaps against Stanford because of the fumble. And it's just like the limited snaps that these guys have. And again, we're talking rushing here. We're not talking about total yards. Jadarian Price only had 10 carries against Georgia Tech. Jeremiyah Love had 14 against Georgia Tech. And Riley Leonard carried the ball 10 times. It just feels like they're kind of riding this 3-headed monster, and the only way that one of these 2 running backs is going to have a big game like that is if they, pop off like a 60 or 70-yard run and then kind of tack onto it after that. Are you like in incognito mode? Have you gone into witness protection? All of a sudden I can't even see you here. Oh, there you are. There you are. So that to me is the head scratcher. I don't understand it. What do you think, like in terms of this game in particular, Jess, like you were talking about tempo offense and that kind of thing earlier. Do you feel like this is a game where Notre Dame should even want to be using tempo, or do you want to just control the clock and keep the ball away from Navy as much as possible with that running game?
This is a hard question because I think that, part of you wants to say, yes, let's control the clock, let's do our thing, right? But let's play devil's advocate with that situation. Say you take 7-8 minutes and you don't score somehow. Maybe you miss a field goal. Maybe there's an interception or a turnover of some sort.
Because Navy is good in the red zone with their defense.
So, and then now Navy goes on a drive where they hold 8-9 minutes and they score. Well, now that's over a quarter of football that's already gone, and you've already only touched the ball one time, right? So I think it's kind of not to be, in that kind of hold territory, but I think it's more or less kind of a mix of the both. I think you have to find a way to have efficient, but still kind of, maybe 5-6 minute type drives, because at the end of the day, you still have to give yourself time considering something might go wrong. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket and potentially, fall behind. But I'm more so put the gas on the pedal, go tempo, and try to get ahead of Navy. And then if you fail, and Navy's going to take a long time, well, at least you're getting the ball back with more clock because you yourself didn't take up a lot of clock.
DK says he would keep it away and give the defense breathers. I think that there is something to be said for that, but I also think there's something to be said for what you were just saying. And Joe says, do they receive the ball first? So basically, if you win the coin toss, do you receive if you're Notre Dame? I would put the offense on the field first and try to score. How about you?
Yep, I would. Against triple option, you got to take the lead and run with it.
Especially like when you consider, going back to what we were talking about earlier with some of these holes that like the slow starts that Notre Dame has had. I would want my defense sitting on the sideline, my offense out there on the field, and put together, the best possible drive that you could right off the bat. I would absolutely want the ball first against Navy, just like against Army as well. Rank these teams in the order of how bad their current situation is. Auburn, Florida State, Michigan, Oklahoma, USC. You got 5 teams there.
So do you want to start with teams that have it the worst, or do you want to start with teams?
Okay. Go with the team that has it the worst first.
I think the team that has it the absolute worst right now is Auburn.
I completely agree with that.
I think they took a chance on a head coach that was a little risky. I think when you play in the SEC, things get magnified because you're expected to play a certain type of ball. And you are still Auburn at the same time, a team that has a track record of being good at football. So I for that reason, I have to go with Auburn first.
I put them first as well because, like you said, you took a chance with a head coach who, quite frankly, is a snake oil salesman. Like, and that's, like he might be good in the room and all that, but you hear some of the stuff that his former quarterbacks have said about him, like the finger pointing and stuff like that. I think that Hugh Freeze is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So I put Auburn at the top of the list. And, he's typically had success right away when he's gone to other coaching stops, and he has not had success so far at Auburn. So I put them. I completely agree with you. Number 1 on the top of your list. John has Florida State at the top of his. Do you have Florida State number 2 or one of the other teams?
I have Florida State number 2. I know that they, last season was a good season for them, but you can't have that sort of season, then flip around and do all the crying that they did about missing the playoff and then come back and have a 1 and, they only have 1 win right now, I think, maybe 2. The reason why I put them also up there is they don't play in the Big Ten or the SEC. They should have they should be playing better in the ACC. I'm just like it's a weaker conference overall.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to play in the SEC and Big Ten. So again, coming off the season they had last year, there's no excuse to be one and whatever in the ACC.
Yep, I've got Florida State number 2 as well, for largely for the reasons that you're talking about. And like, you don't hear them. What have we not heard this season? You haven't heard any about Florida State trying to get out of the ACC and all this different kind of stuff, with just the way things have gone. And like you said, you cannot throw the kind of fit that you threw. I completely empathized with them to be undefeated and not make the playoff, but you can't do that and then look like you've looked. And for all the goodwill and all the things that it looked like Mike Norvell was building up to, this is just a major egg for them to have on their face. So who's your number 3 team?
Number 3 would be USC. Both of these teams are, well, I guess I don't want to give my next one because it just gives the rest of the order.
You can. That's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but like, I've got USC, and then I've got Oklahoma, and then I've got Michigan. Do you have them in that order?
Yeah, I got that. That's the same order for me. And the reason why, USC, Oklahoma are both teams coming from the Big 12 and the Pac-12 to the SEC. But I think USC has had more embarrassing losses. I mean, Oklahoma has lost to Tennessee, a top 10 team. They've lost to they lost to another Texas. They lost to Texas. That's also a top 10 team. The only team I can't get on board with them losing to is South Carolina. But had they not lost to South Carolina, I don't think it's the end of the world for them. Again, they lost to Tennessee and Texas, 2 teams that are just ahead of them right now as a program. And that's fine. Like it's okay that, it's depending on who you ask. In my opinion, it's okay that you're behind Texas and Tennessee because of where they are in terms of their program. Like, Texas wasn't good for a long time, and now they've got this thing built up, right? Tennessee, same thing. They haven't been good for a while, but now Heupel has, a good thing kind of going for them. So I just think they are just further along in their progression. And I think Michigan is Michigan. I think it'll take care of itself. I think that, obviously there was a ton of guys who got drafted. A lot of your coaching staff left to go to the NFL. So I give them the excuse of a lot of turnover. But I think that, Dave Portnoy is going to fire up that NIL fund. They'll find a quarterback and kind of get things back on track here soon.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the thing with USC, I'll just kind of cover them since you covered Oklahoma a little bit more. Like, this is just like for Marcus Freeman, Lincoln Riley is in year 3, and they should be better. Now, they lost a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who went number 1 overall in the draft, and they also lost Cliff Kingsbury, but like, he needs to be recruiting better than what he's recruiting right now. And just where they are, their entire program has to start recruiting to, you've got to be better on both sides of the, line of scrimmage, offensive line and defensive line. You can't lose to Maryland. Like, there are games that you could see, like, okay, you're USC. You actually went out and, like, you can't lose to Maryland, I guess, at the end of the day is what I'm saying, and like Michigan, the cupboard was left bare out there by Jim Harbaugh, and they don't have a quarterback right now, and it shows. But again, it's year 1 for the head coach, so I don't think that they're nearly as bad off as any of these other programs. Better Friday night viewing, USC-Rutgers or Game 1 of the World Series between the Yankees and the Dodgers?
Yeah, I mean, if we're being honest, I don't care about a crappy USC and Rutgers team. I'm going to be definitely tuned into Game 1 of the World Series. It's the World Series. It's a 7-game event that only happens potentially 7-game event that happens one time a year. I can go watch a crappy football game any Saturday or Friday that I want.
I completely agree. And did you know that game starts at like 11 o'clock? Like, they're going Big Ten after dark on a Friday night. Game 1 of the World Series all the way, baby. In it for sure. And like, I mean, it's Dodgers Yankees. It's been since I was a teenager that the last time they played in the World Series. By the way, I threw in a little Fernando mania the other day. Fernando Valenzuela passed away, I think the day after we talked about that. October has just been a horrible month in terms of, like Pete Rose passed away, Dikembe Mutombo passed away, and now Fernando Valenzuela passed away. Some of the greats of their sport. Why do you keep turning your light off? What are you doing over there?
You'll never know. You'll never know.
I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get into the Cowboys here since Brent can't wait for it. Fill in the blank. The word that best describes your anticipation for Sunday night's Cowboys 49ers game is blank.
I'm going to take your word from the prior one, and I'm just going to emphasize it. Complete uneasiness. I've seen this story year after year, the last 4 or 5 seasons, and it always ends with the Cowboys getting embarrassed. And so the glass half full of me full side of me wants to be, well, the chances of them continuously just getting beat down year after year it has to flip to the Cowboys' favor at some point, right? Like if you play 100 times, the Cowboys got to get them at least once.
You would think.
That's the glass half full of me, but I'm not expecting that. I'm uneasy. The 49ers just came off a bad loss, and so they're going to be pissed off and fired up. The only thing that gives me confidence is they have a ton of injuries lingering on offense between Trent Williams, between Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason is banged up, Deebo Samuel is banged up, Brandon Ayuk is now out for the year, Juwan Jennings is hurt in some capacity. So, that bodes well, but then you got to realize the Cowboys.
It's just going to make you feel even worse on Monday, when they beat Dallas down the way they're going to.
I don't think they're going to beat them down, but I don't know how particularly I don't give the Cowboys a chance of winning, because the thing is, too, is their offense doesn't do a lot against the 49ers defense as well.
That's the thing. And that's Jeff Brown hit my word. It is dread, complete dread. It's of course a Sunday night game. Got to stay up and watch it. Like all those skill position players don't matter because the 49ers have just flat out physical Dallas every time they've played them in probably the last 5 or 6 meetings. So I don't see this being any different, and it's on the road. So I don't see it.
That should bode well in their favor. Cowboys are 3-0 on the road this season and 0-3 at home. So
maybe so. I don't know.
Come on, I need you to be more glass half full. Even if
I wish I could. I'm gonna give you some Cowboys 49ers trivia, and I actually saw this morning on Good Morning Football. The Cowboys beat the 49ers in week 2 of the 2011 season, thanks to a 77-yard touchdown reception by which of these receivers? Was it Miles Austin, Des Bryant, Jesse Holley, or Terrence Williams? Do you remember?
I believe it was Miles Austin.
Incorrect. Jesse Holley. It was Jesse Holley, the least obvious of the group. And they actually had Jason Witten as the option instead of Terrence Williams. I switched it to Terrence Williams because there was no way that Jason Witten was going to score a 77-yard touchdown. Tony Romo was the quarterback, but it was Jesse Holley who did it.
I'm thinking of the Chiefs game. That was Miles Austin.
Yeah, Miles Austin had the huge kind of breakout game against the Chiefs around that same time. Yep. Speaking of Good Morning Football, if you could only get your NFL takes and commentary from either Colin Cowherd or Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football on the NFL Network, which would you choose?
Oh, it's an easy decision. It's Kyle Brandt. I only want to mute Kyle Brandt when he's talking about the Cowboys. I want to mute Colin Cowherd just about every time he's talking, right? I think Kyle Brandt is still very good at his job. He's very smart, very intelligent. I like the way that he presents his content, right? Like I love he knows how to make a segment, right? I I don't. I've told you before. It's just he loves to get on the same soap opera about the Cowboys every single year. Like, at least if you're gonna talk crap,
But it's
spice it
somewhat
up. But you give
it's
me
somewhat
the same
deserved though, right? I
stuff
mean, you're right. Like
every year.
he does just basically recycle the same argument against the Cowboys, but in his defense, like the argument against the Cowboys remains the same every year. They can't win big games, they can't win playoff games, they don't show up, and now they're even worse this year than they've been the last couple of years. So, I get it.
Yeah, but being in the playoffs is still, that's more than a lot of teams can say at the end of the day, right? You're still
Yeah.
doing things right.
Now, I put this question in here specifically for you because I was curious what you would say because of the fact that like you do get so riled up about Brandt's Dallas
Well, it's
Cowboys
just
takes.
is there
I mean,
nothing good to say about the Cowboys?
get ready. Get
It's
ready. Don't
always
turn it
bad.
on Monday. Don't turn it on Monday because you know what it's going to be.
See,
It's
this
like,
is why I get frustrated with you as a Cowboys fan. You don't have optimism that they're going to win, even if you think they're going to
why
lose.
have they earned my optimism? You heard the garbage that Jerry Jones was saying last week. And then he went on the show with the same, Dallas radio show this
I
week.
listen. I listened to the whole interview.
Well, so you heard that like they didn't even ask him about Travis Henry. He launched into the Travis Henry stuff himself. It was like a straw man argument. He just started, like arguing against the air, old man arguing against the air. Jerry Jones launches into his defense of why they didn't go get Travis Henry. They didn't even ask about Henry. And he's defending why he didn't get it. He's like, oh well, we probably wouldn't have been, giving him the ball as much if he was here. It's like, really? Have you looked at your team and figured out that you don't have a running game and you need a running game? You're last in the NFL in running the football. But in terms of the Colin Cowherd Brandt stuff, again, like I was throwing it to you just to see what you would say because, every time Kyle Brandt goes on one of his rants, I get texts from Jesse about, Kyle Brandt is same old stuff all the time. And it's like, but like, if I want some self-important rant with some random metaphors and, half, baked truths, half-cocked takes and stuff like that, I'll go with Colin Cowherd. But if I want someone who can actually laugh at himself a little bit, mix in some music, some pop culture references and stuff like that, I'm going to go with Kyle Brandt.
Yeah, that's right. He's just that's kind of what I meant about presenting kind of, the way he presents his different kind of takes and stuff. But
Derrick Henry. Sorry. I don't know why I was saying Travis Henry. Thank you, Joe.
I think Colin Cowherd thinks he's like a philosopher half the time.
Oh, he does. He absolutely does. Joe says he honestly thinks Cowherd used to pay people to call into his radio show. I don't doubt that. That would not surprise me at all. Okay, what do I have left here? I've only got one left. There's a Russian AI company that is paying users $200,000 for the rights to use your face and voice on their robots in perpetuity, forever. Would you do it?
Yes, I would do it. And I don't care how much my voice is echoed across the Russian airways or Russian households or whatever it might be. But listen, I'll tell you what I could do with $200,000 in this very moment. I could pay for my wedding. I could pay off my student loans. I could pay off my new car and probably have a little bit left over to put a down payment on a house. So you give me all that for 200,000. All you got to do is use my voice for some robots. I'll never be there. I'll never hear them. I don't care. Give me the 200,000.
This seems pretty simple, like $200,000. And I saved this for you. John says he wouldn't do it. He wants $1 million. I mean, like, what are these robots? What exactly is this going to look like? Am I going to care 10 years from now? Like what they're saying. I feel like, maybe I should hold out for a couple, 100,000 extra. I feel like I've developed my voice over a long period of time. Like maybe, and I actually speak some Russian, so like, I don't know, but I would do it at the end of the day. I would do it. $200,000, like that's a nice little start a nest egg, kind of thing. I think it's easy. Pay, like you said, pay off your
You could
bills.
get your RV. You could get your hot tub that
right.
you want. There's a
That's
lot
right.
that you could do with 200,000.
Hit the road. Hit the road. Craig says, sounds like a way to steal your identity. Well, you're actually
They don't want my
your
identity. There's nothing good with it. You get debt with my identity.
Yeah. Corey says, then they can use your voice for anything they want. I mean,
yeah, but I'll never be in Russia to hear it. You know, they're not just gonna make like a video of this robot with Jesse Steyer's
I mean,
voice.
I feel like it only
on
matters.
YouTube.
Yeah, I feel like it only matters if you're someone famous, right? Like,
yeah.
Joe says I can't sell out because I'm the voice of Notre Dame women's basketball. First exhibition game next Wednesday. By the way, the season is practically here. It's upon us. Exciting. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up tonight. A lot of good stuff, as always, on the good old We In, We Out show. We appreciate everyone's contributions there and in the chat as well. We've got IB Countdown to Kickoff, of course, that we will post tomorrow. So look forward to that. Brian and Trevor will have the mailbag show. So if you have your recruiting questions, be sure and jump in the mailbag show tomorrow. And, of course, the post-game show after the game. Noon kickoff. You excited about noon kickoff?
Yes. I am excited about noon kickoff.
Don't look too excited. Don't sound too excited.
Well, so this weekend I'm going down to Cincinnati to accompany Naomi to a bachelorette party.
Oh.
And the fellas are just going to be hanging out watching football. So
nice.
That's an exciting time. I think we're going to go golf in the morning and then watch football all afternoon. So I can't say
a good use of time.
Exactly. But I would like to finish this show off, since I don't get to write in my predictions and I will not be a part of the countdown show tomorrow. I would like to give my prediction of the Notre Dame score. I think the Irish come out on top 34-13 over the Navy midshipmen.
All right.
That is my final prediction.
All right. I had a hard time deciding how many points I think Navy's going to score in this game. 13 sounds about right. All right. Hit the like button before you leave. Again, we appreciate you, and we will talk to you next week on IB Nation Sports Talk.